Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you are a brand new subscriber or a brand new viewer. My name is Kyle, and today we're going to be reviewing The Matrix Resurrections. This is the fourth installment of the Matrix series, written and directed by Lana Wachowski. The movie takes place 20 years after the events of the Matrix Revolutions, and Neo is apparently still in the Matrix. However, after a rousing, inciting incident, he is pulled back into the real world. And that's all I really want to say towards the plot of the film, because I was going in this movie completely blind. I didn't see any of the trailers. I saw part of the first trailer, but then I turned it off, so I didn't see any of the promotional or marketing material for this movie. I wanted to know nothing. Like everyone, I love the first movie, and I personally still enjoy The Matrix Reloaded. I know the movie has flaws, I know it's got a couple of problems screenwriting-wise, but I definitely still enjoy the movie quite a bit. The Matrix Revolutions, that one's just okay. But I was still excited to see The Matrix Resurrections because in my mind, okay, the Wachowskis are coming back, they have a reason to make this movie. What I can say off the bat is, this movie is the definition of divisive. Some people will love it, some people will hate it, some people will be in the middle. For me, the first act of this movie was genuinely great, and the biggest reason being was it surprised the hell out of me. I couldn't believe what I was watching. They do very clever things during the first act of this movie that are made to sort of subvert your expectations as to the kind of movie you're going to see. And in my mind, I kept saying to myself, wow, if the rest of the movie is like the first act of this film, we're in for something really special here. Keanu Reeves, of course, reprises his role as Neo, and I really like Keanu Reeves in this role. I feel like a lot of himself personally is instilled in the character of Neo. You could sort of feel that watching his performance, and I really like him here. Carrie-Anne once again reprising her role as Trinity. Although she isn't Trinity per se, you can really feel the power that the Matrix holds over humanity within the first act. They did such a great job showcasing a world in which people are fine living their lives. People are fine to conformity. So in a way, it felt original. I was so excited. I was hoping that the rest of the movie would feel that way. And unfortunately, it just doesn't. It goes from this brilliant commentary and sort of meta commentary into a simple generic action movie. Now let's talk about those action sequences. If there's one thing that the original trilogy and of course the first movie established so well, was redefining action movies for the 21st century. Even The Matrix Revolutions, as boring a film as that was during a lot of it, there were definitely moments from the action sequences that I'm going to remember, moments that stuck out. I think the problem is that the majority of action movies made today feel like they're the exact same because they're comprised of characters that know and understand every form of martial art imaginable. And it makes some of those sequences feel unbelievable because you're thinking, well, these characters, they should not know how to do this, and yet they're going against armed guards, Navy SEALs. It's like, no, things like that just don't happen. For The Matrix, I mean, it made sense because you got to learn jujitsu from the touch of a button. The problem is when they filmed these action sequences, they don't feel like they're standouts. And unfortunately, there are some quick cut edits and some high frame rate during these sequences, and that's just not what the previous three movies were about. There were some moments of slow motion that did work, but unfortunately, the second half of the movie is comprised of so many mindless action sequences that it kind of forgets the brilliant story it was trying to establish during the first half. And then there's the dialogue. Now, this is something that the Wachowskis have struggled on for almost 20 years. There are some long-winded exposition sequences in which characters are simply telling other characters what's going on, what happened, and where they are now. And that's okay for about 5 minutes during the second half, where it's like, okay, we got to bring you slightly up to speed about what's happened within the past 20 years. But there are so many conversations that I think could have been cut simply because we've heard these concepts in the previous movies of the franchise. And the worst offender of this dialogue is how on the nose it feels towards the second half. In the first half, it made a lot of sense, and I actually really gravitated towards it because it made a lot of elements of the film really intriguing. But when you get to the second half and they're basically talking about the exact same thing they mentioned in the first half, except for the fact that the second half feels very hollow, you're just not as invested. And when the movie ended and the dialogue was said, all I could think of was, I've heard this 1,000 times, and I've heard them talk about it better in the previous movies. Now, the praise that I have always sung for the Matrix sequels is that I liked the romance and the chemistry between Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss. And I definitely like their chemistry here. They really feel like a couple, and you understand why one character wanted to save the other. That made a lot of sense, and I definitely like that for this movie. It's just, they could have done it better. And I would have had a lot of the story beats from the first act be implemented during the second, so that when the third and final act hits, it feels much more explosive and chaotic, rather than just very generic, hollow, and mediocre, which is how I felt the last half hour of this movie was. Did this movie piss me off? No. But it left me disappointed because of the film's potential shown during that first act, which I thought was genuinely really, really good. I think the movie was so front-loaded with stuff that when it came to the second half of the movie, the script kind of just became thinner and thinner in favor of more action sequences, which would have been great had they established either the next level of action, which is what they did in the 90s, or if those action sequences featured less quick-cut editing and high frame rate and more just allowing the audience to see what's going on. Walking out of the theater, I thought to myself, there were things about it that I really, really liked. The whole first act, the romance, the performances by the two lead actors, it's there. It's there, and I can see it, and I enjoyed that. But there's just so much bad in the film, with excessively wordy dialogue, a very thin and hollow second act, a couple of actors that I felt were definitely miscast, and some side characters that I totally forgot their names as I walked out of the theater. The movie is definitely the definition of a mixed bag for me, but I do think it's one that I will explore again, because I do think the Wachowskis, well, Lana Wachowski, did try. I do feel like there was an effort put into this movie, like all of their movies, and I really respect that. In regards to a grade, I've kind of chosen to leave this movie gradeless. I want to see it again before I really harken down on what exactly I'd want to rate it. I think it's kind of like in the C plus B minus range, but I don't have it solidified, so I'm not going to give it a grade. Instead, I think if I was to rank it among the four movies, obviously the first one's the best, then The Matrix Reloaded, Resurrections, and Revolutions. I'm very curious to hear what your guys' thoughts on the movie are. Did you love The Matrix Resurrections? Did you hate the movie? Somewhere in the middle? Let me know down in the comment section below. In the meantime, guys, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and give this video a like. The links to all my social media pages can be found in the description box below, as well as my new business email. Any inquiries, also in the description box below. Definitely send them my way. Thank you all so much as always for watching, and stay tuned.